It's happened again. Another mass shooting in the United States in a school, and that's occurred many times before. I recall President Trump's vow at his inauguration to end the carnage. Well, thanks, Trump. So, what have you done to reduce the incidence of this? Nothing. In fact, you've made it more likely. Under Obama, there was a law saying those who received those who received federal funding for mental health care would not be allowed to buy weapons. But the Republicans have repealed that, and Trump signed that into law, making this kind of massacre even more likely. Although I don't think that was the case in this particular incident. So in Parkland, Florida, a 19-year-old went into his former school and he shot dead 17 people. The death toll may well grow as some of those who are critically ill in hospital may yet succumb to their injuries. So it proves yet again that gun control is urgent. Now, I predicted another atrocity like this. Anyone could do it. One doesn't need to be an expert on such issues to forecast this kind of thing. And yet again, we might as well set the clock. It's only a matter of time until the next school experiences such tragedy. It might be a week, it might be a month, it might be more. But we all know it's going to happen quite soon again. Another American school is going to undergo a mass shooting. And these things are avoidable. No, it's not possible to prevent them every single time, but one could reduce the frequency of such crimes, and one could reduce the severity by not allowing a person access to such deadly firearms like assault rifles, not so many firearms, not so much ammunition, and so forth. So I've talked on this channel many times about the sort of gun control I would like to see be implemented, because I care about people around the world, whether my nationality or not. And why do we not have these gun massacres in Ireland or Great Britain? You know, it's over 20 years since something similar happened in a school there, and that's because there is sensible legislation. So as gun control is not going to be introduced, guns for teachers might not be a bad idea. So if many teachers carried guns, as some people have proposed, then if some deranged gunman were to come in, the teachers would be able to gun him down pretty soon. He might be able to kill one or two children, but before he or even she got very far, that person would be killed. And I know it's far from ideal. It does seem deeply wrong and anti-pedagogical that teachers should have to carry firearms, but the political climate being what it is, I don't see an alternative. Armed guards at school, some schools already have that. Police officers at school, a few schools already have that. And again, that's not enough. So the trouble with this proposal is one has introduced a gun into a situation where it did not exist already. Because what's to say a teacher won't have a breakdown, they've been provoked horrendously by an extremely unruly class, and just lose it and pull a gun and shoot some of the pupils. Or indeed, one of the students could grab the gun off the teacher and then use it. Now, obviously there are ways to secure a gun to somebody's person, or indeed have fingerprint recognition technology in the firearm such that only the owner is able to use it. The gun will not fire if someone else is touching it. Anyway, so mental health is often a factor in these situations, but one should have a holistic approach. It should be a multi-pronged strategy. Anyway, some of these Republican politicians purport to believe that those with grave mental health issues should be permitted to buy assault rifles because that's liberty. Well, what could go wrong? As I say, if I had any say in the Constitution, it would say something like sane, law-abiding adults are allowed non-military firearms for self-defense and hunting purposes, something like that. But let's look at some of these gun nuts, some of these Fifth Amendment fundamentalists. Even they say, well, let's have a ban on firearms in schools within, 500 yards? I don't know what the exclusion zone is, with exemptions for law enforcement officers. But why don't you allow children to have guns in schools? You know, the Constitution doesn't say that children aren't permitted them. It doesn't say that people aren't allowed them in schools. It just says that these rights shall not be abridged. No limitation whatsoever. If you're really stringently going by the Constitution, well, I'm not a stickler for it. So the National Rifle Association is in large part responsible for this insane situation where the insane are permitted access to firearms. So they used to be for the average gun owner, the NRA, and they used to support background checks, but they've gradually become more and more fanatical, opposing even the most reasonable restriction on the right to possess firearms. Anyway, almost all Americans back background checks, about 95% for versus 4% against. So it is staggering that Republicans in Congress won't vote for this in most cases, a few honorable exceptions. Now, assault rifle ban, people talk about that, and it's true that even if that were implemented, it would only reduce the number of deaths by a small amount, but that would still be a welcome improvement because most gun deaths are by handguns. Anyway, I know that wild emotionalism can kick in these times, and people can propose undue usurpations of civil liberty, and hard cases make bad law. But this is not a hard case, it's not exceptional, it's happened myriad times before, it shall occur countless times in the future unless real action is taken. Imagine if a foreign terrorist had carried out this crime. You can imagine the shrieks from the Republicans saying that civil liberty needs to be completely thrown out the window and national security trumps all other concerns and rights just don't count. We'd do absolutely anything to reduce this, even if it were a tiny number of deaths. But because it's an American, perhaps a white American, seems to be a Christian American, oh well, it's just one of those things and we can just shrug it off and do absolutely nothing about it. And that's what is flabbergasting, the way the United States has got such a much, much higher rate of violent death than comparable Western countries, and yet no serious action is taken. I saw this rate of violent deaths per 100,000 people, and in the United Kingdom it's 0.07, whereas in the United States it's 4. So much higher, almost 50 times higher. Now, people say that the crime rate is higher in the United Kingdom than the United States. I don't know the statistics, even if that's true. Well, it looks at homicides. The rate of homicides is so much higher in the United States. Now, probably no legislation can bring it down to the British level, but it could still be significantly reduced. And yet, many people in the GOP are in hock to the NRA. Extremists talk about domestic extremism. The NRA do more harm than possibly any other lawful organization in the United States. Anyway, I would that the United States regains its sanity. I agree with a high majority of Americans that serious legislation is long overdue. However, I am very pessimistic. I think it's highly improbable that something sensible will be done in the foreseeable future.